people need to learn how to learn.
So how do people learn how to learn?
Yeah. People learn how to learn. There's a number of ways that you can do that. I think a couple ways. So first of all, I think there's 3 levels to that. And so the first level is to receive information. Most people just don't get enough information. Most people aren't reading content. They're not watching videos. But then what do I do with that information? So for me, people ask me all the time, Mark, what book should I read? What do you want to learn? So right now I'm reading books on hiring operators and management because that's where I'm at right now. I might write a book on or read a book on time management or marketing. So whatever I need. And the reason why it's important is because I need it. So I read the information and then I implement the information. Yeah. And then the third piece, which is super important and everyone can do this, is then I must discuss it or teach that information. Because what happens is, I mean, you create content, so you know this, you maybe haven't thought through it, I'm sure you have, but when I sit down to write that idea, all of a sudden I realize I don't know it as clearly as I thought I did. Or if I read this idea and then I tell you, you're going to have questions for me. And it's going to make me go, I hadn't thought about that. And then I have to come with different angles and I have to pitch it differently. So it makes me clarify it and sharpen it. And then what I'm doing is specifically I'm trying to learn something. I take notes. I want to take notes of everything. There's something magical about a hand-eye coordination or brain-hand coordination. And so I'll typically take notes. Depends on what medium I'm in. If I'm going to a conference, which like at ClickFunnels, for example, I'll create a notebook and I'll put a line down the middle. And when I hear something I like, I'll write that down and then I'll write an application down next to it. So I'll have a line. Here's what I heard. Here's the application. Here's what I heard. Here's the application. And I typically go into a book or a conference with one thing in mind. Like I'm trying to find a new campaign to launch this year. So when I'm at ClickFunnels, I'm thinking about my business and marketing. And so now when I'm receiving this information, I have a frame to put that in. So here's what I learned and here's the application. If I'm reading books, lately what I've been doing is I've been getting the Audible and the book at the same time. So I'm listening and reading at the same time.
Yeah. How much better is that for you?
It's
like I've heard it from so many people.
It's way better. Not only is it's not only is it so much better because of the retention, it's also better because of you're hearing it and seeing it at the same time. So you have 2 forms of learning at the same time, and then you can go through it much faster, right?
So how do you do it for one of those like 28-hour books? Like I'm going through one of those right now. What is it? The Laws of Human Nature, and I'm just like that thing's probably a tomb, but I for sure am not retaining. To your point.
Yeah, I just want to show you. So I just told you I just finished reading the Who Not How book.
Yeah.
So what I do is I create an Evernote sheet for a book. And then in here, you can see like my notes that I've put in here.
Yep.
So then I'll put notes and I'll put like the page number. On page 65, 90 days a moving future process, page 65. And then I put all my thoughts here. And
so
then,
like what's an example of one of your thoughts there?
Looking back over the past quarter, what are the things that you have achieved that make you the proudest? So I told you at the end of the year, I do a lot of reflection.
Yeah.
So this is what's in my mind right now. So this is what stuck out to me. Okay, how can I do my end of year reflection better? So I kind of wrote this down.
I think that's powerful because the way I do it right now is like I'm reading the Elon book and I'm dog-earing a lot of things. I'm reading some other books at the same time. But the problem is I never come back to those dog ears, right? Like you have to be taking notes. And I like the whole, hey, like what's the actual application to this too? Because then you could actually, like the point of reading is like to actually do something with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know that like you can hear the same thing a year later and it just hits you different. You're in a different part of your life, a different messenger, a different context. And so that's why it's important for me to have that context I go into. What I used to do before Evernote is I would sit down with a book and I would keep a little mini notepad and I'd write it down, I'd rip it out and stick it in the book. And I'd keep reading instead of dog-earing it.
That's good, yeah.
So then I would have my thought and context on that notepad and then stick it in the book. And then I could just grab the book and I could see all the things that I'd put in there and I could just turn to any page I wanted.
That's good, yeah.
But now I do it all in Evernote because now it's like searchable, right? And things like that. And then you want to go back and recall that information. So now we need repetition. And this is why like some of the best books you need to reread over again. One, they hit you differently, but it's also that repetition, which is why I take the notes. So I take a lot of notes. I'll go back through my notes. I have the page number, and then I can go back and reread that again. So that's sort of, I guess, my tips of how to learn. One, learning how to critically think through the information. And then 2, when I'm receiving the information, really taking good notes and taking applications down, making notes so I can go back to them. 3, applying the information that I've learned, and then 4, teaching that information. So in this example, right, I told you at the end of the year I'm doing reflection. So here we are in December at this time of this recording, and this is my month of reflection. What went good, what went bad, etc. So that stuck out to me. I'll write that down. This year, as I'm sitting down to do this, I'll grab those notes and I'll actually do that. And then in my community, I'm giving away some of my time management processes just because I use them, and I'll put these notes in that and teach it. So I read it, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to teach it to my community.
Interesting. I love it.